Next curve.
Hey everyone, welcome to Next Curve's reThink webcast. And yes, my nose is a little stuffy. And we're back. I'm here with Earl of EJ Wireless Research, and this is our third or fourth. Is it the third or fourth? I think it's the third episode of our series that we have entitled "From the Radio to the Rick." I think I got that right. I keep screwing that up. But anyways, this episode is going to be an interesting one because we have entitled it the Squid Game episode. And we're going to explain what that means. And then we're going to add a little meat to the Squid Game bones. Okay. And so how you doing? How you doing?
Doing great, Leonard. Great to be back.
Yep. And so this ought to be a fun one. I'm sure a lot of people are really curious. Well, what does Squid Game have anything to do with Open RAN? Well, let me give you the short of it. Wow, we're going almost 2 years since I coined this whole thing, Squid Game, Open RAN Squid Game. Basically, it boils down to this, okay? And you have to know the history of Open RAN and the movement for the last, I would say, about 4 years in order to really understand what I'm talking about here. But, back, I think it was 2000, I was asked by Chris Pearson who's the president of 5G Americas. Well, what do you think about Open RAN? And I told him, look, I see it as an architectural decision that has to be made by an operator. It's really not a vendor thing. But what vendors need to do is, open is fine. Open ecosystems, all this stuff is great, but it doesn't preclude participants from competing. And, when we look at this telco tech game, I mean, Earl, what do you think is the most important thing you need to achieve in order to compete against the big guys, which is what everyone's been talking about with Open RAN, right? Taking out the incumbents and, replacing Huawei and the Chinese vendors and XYZ.
Exactly. I think, Leonard, that you can make something work. And we've talked about this before in previous episodes. The question is how optimized, I think that's a key word, and how efficient will it actually be when you cobble all of these disparate pieces of hardware and software together? Right. Because they're not developing and designing and doing their R&D at the same cadence or with the same skill set. So now you have a bunch of things that have just been thrown into a pot and you're just stirring it. And you're hoping that whatever comes out is going to be working, number one. Yeah. And then number two, hopefully in the same ballpark as what the incumbents already have.
Right.
But like we said last episode, you're not going to have access to the most up-to-date and advanced silicon that's out there. So you're already at a disadvantage from the chip side. And you're hoping that your software is going to make up whatever disadvantages your hardware is going to have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But in short, what you're saying is these smaller players in this Open RAN space, many of them new, some of them been around for a long time. I mean, actually, a lot of them, many of them software oriented in their business model, have to figure out how to scale, right? Figure out what that scaling equation is and formula. And I think so when we talk about Squid Game, that's really what it is. It's like, look, the players need to team up and they need to figure out a way to come to market with a packaged ready solution, which
end to end and already baked out, ready to go, not needing another couple of years of testing or whatever to make sure that it works. So now you have alliances within the Open RAN that are going to be the competition against either you're a one-off player, in which case you're probably not going to make it.
Yep.
Or you have to now create an end-to-end solution, which you didn't think about when this whole thing first started. And so now that complicates your business model. And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right. And I think there's been an allergic reaction to this idea that there would be vertically integrated players or consortia within the Open RAN ecosystem. But with any open technology movement, we've seen that happen, and it's been a necessity. So let's take Rakuten for a moment. I mean, that's literally what they've been actually bashed a bit over the last year and a half or so, because they've come to market with what looks like a stack, and they've had to try to explain themselves, and say, hey, no, we're still open. That's true from an interface compliance perspective, support, and most certainly trying to advance the open ORAN standards and specifications so that they can be robust and enable future viable networks. That's I don't know why that is such a negative thing, but Earl, I think that's what has been missing, and where I think we're seeing a lot of players inevitably starting to find themselves in a position where they do have to play the Squid Game.
I think if you look at some of the players that are well established with a lot of money backing them, to where if this goes or doesn't go, it'll be a blip on their financial balance sheet, and maybe they don't care, right? Because it's not their primary area of revenue, compared to other companies that have joined the alliance where they are a one-trick pony, and this is all they have, whether it's on the radio side or on the baseband side. So the ones who have figured out how do you play this game, because if you're going to play the Squid Game or any game, you're playing it to win. You're not playing it to lose.
There you go. Yeah, and I think teaming up, the element of teaming up and going to market with something that is a stack solution package. There's nothing wrong with that,
Right. It's still open. You just vetted it already.
Yes, exactly. And ready to go and compete with the big guys. And, for all the challenges on the hardware side that still need to be overcome that we've already talked about. I mean, this is what we mean by the Squid Game. And so as we're looking at MWC 2023, I think it should be interesting to go and chat with a lot of the vendors at this event and get a feel for, how has their attitude changed toward the way that they need to compete in order to win in this Open RAN Squid Game?
I think one layer that doesn't get talked about a lot, but is really the key layer of this ecosystem, is the system integrator. And it's not the operator. It can't be the operator. They're not set up to do that. So then who is it going to be?
Yes.
One of the vendors who acts also as the SI, or you have someone else who comes in that's going to essentially, again, team up with whoever's in their ecosystem to make sure it all flies end to end before they go pitch it to an operator. Because the last thing they want is to go into an operator, find out that nothing works, and having to explain to this operator that, it's going to take 2 years for us to bake this thing out.
Yeah. Well, that's another can of worms. And we're going to have to save that for the next episode of From the Radio to the Rick. And so, hey, Earl, thanks for joining me again. This was
great
fun.
To be here.
Actually, I always learn when I'm on with you. Even
Same here, Leonard.
During session, it's awesome. So to our audience, thanks for joining us. We hope you continue to follow us and watch this series, which I think is really important, especially for those in the Open RAN community that are looking at, pretty challenging times. And we hope to see many of you at MWC 2023. Earl and I, we're going to be providing our takes from the event. And one of the things that we're keeping our eye on is for how things are transpiring in the Open RAN Squid Game. And so continue to follow us at www.next-curve.com. And also make sure to follow Uncle Earl Lum, who is like the radio dude. And you can follow him at www.eglwireless.com. He is the guru, and always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you,
Okay.
Leonard, and we'll see everyone at Barcelona.